Ladies and gentlemen, do I have an interesting one for you today? Because we are not talking about Modern Warfare 3. We are not talking about Warzone, which is right around the corner. We are talking about Call of Duty 2024. Yes, the Call of Duty game that is probably coming out around this time next year is what we are talking about. Because in a Windows Central, which is a publication interview that came out yesterday, we got essentially confirmation that Call of Duty 2024 is indeed going to be a Black Ops game. Now, there is a lot that this infers. First of all, it infers when the game is going to take place, the fact of what is coming inside of the game, the setting of the game, and who you will be playing as. So there is a lot to go through here and a lot to kind of tear apart. And as per usual, what I like to do is I like to dive into what I think the story is going to be here, because based off of the setting, based off of the timeline, we can actually get a pretty good idea of what is actually going to happen with the story in this game. So I want to start by actually looking at this article. The title of this article is Exclusive: Call of Duty 2024 is indeed Black Ops set during the Gulf War in the early 90s. So that part is going to be really important for what we are going to talk about moving forward. But the main aspects of it is what you need to know. As expected, the next Call of Duty is indeed another entry in the long-running Black Ops series. So this is going to be the 6th total Black Ops game. It is focused on the CIA. What that tells us is, once again, Russel Adler, potentially Frank Woods and Alex Mason. We'll dive more into that in a minute. The next Black Ops is set in the Gulf War and will examine the United States' role in the conflict. So again, like a lot of Black Ops games, specifically focused on the USA side of things. And previous leak points to a return of round-based zombies modes and remastered maps from previous Black Ops entries. So there's a couple of interesting things with that and that alone. We don't really need to read through the rest of the article because it's a lot of filler and I just want to hit on the main points here. So first things first, I want to talk about that round-based zombies mode and the return of Black Ops remastered maps. So the big thing with the return of zombies to round-based mode, apparently the pre-order bonus for this year is going to be getting access to zombies weeks early, not a week, weeks, which is absolutely insane for several reasons. First off, if it's like Black Ops Cold War, you're going to be able to level up your character and all of your weapons weeks before the multiplayer comes out, which means a lot of players are going to have all of the weapons leveled up when multiplayer comes out, assuming that that is true. Now, based off of my speculation over the past few years, we have had early access to the campaign a week early for pre-order, and I would be pretty surprised if they got rid of that. So my guess would be 2 weeks before the game comes out, you get zombies. 1 week before the game comes out, you get campaign. And then when the game fully launches, you get multiplayer. Spread out like that to focus the game on different aspects at different times. I could see that happening. But to get zombies just 2 weeks, 3 weeks early is insane. We have never seen anything like that before. Now, of course, the next thing that we have is it being a Black Ops game. Now, I want to be clear. This is going to be the longest developed Call of Duty game ever of all time. 4 years. Normally, 3 years was kind of what we saw before. 2 years was kind of normal. This current game, Modern Warfare 3, was 16 months. This game, 4 years. 4. Which means expectations for this game are going to be incredibly high. Which means it could either be amazing, one of the best Call of Duty games ever, or a total flop, which of course has me worried. Now, moving on to the next thing, we have the setting of the game. The Gulf War, and specifically taking place in the early 90s. This is where we dive in and get more into my expertise, the story of Call of Duty. This part's going to be fun. It's my favorite part of the video. Now, if we have a look at our main characters from the previous Black Ops game, the first one that's going to come up is Russel Adler. He was the main character within Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, and he was extremely deeply focused on within the post seasons as well. So when season 1, 2, and 3 came out, he was in all of the cutscenes. He was a main focus of it. Now, the interesting thing about this is these characters are all going to be in their 60s in the 90s, which makes them relatively old, especially for a CIA operator. But that absolutely doesn't mean that they will be the main focus and the main characters within the game. And I will almost guarantee Russel Adler will be one of those. However, Our other characters are where things get interesting. The next one we move to is Frank Woods. Again, would be in his 60s during the 90s, and as far as he goes, he has been in every single Black Ops game except for Black Ops 3. Even Black Ops 4, which takes place way in the future, way after the death of Frank Woods, he is still in the game. They worked him into the story by a whole set of circumstances. We'll talk about that in another video. But he's been in every single game except one, which means to me, they would be pretty dumb to have him alive in this universe and not in the actual game. And his story would fit in as a CIA operative, maybe working more clandestine and less physical operations. We'll get into the physical ones in a moment. Now, a character who cannot be in the game. This is where things get fun. So a character who cannot be in the game is Alex Mason. And the reason why we know this is because in the year 1986, it was assumed that Frank Woods shot and killed Alex Mason. And it wasn't until the year 2025 that Frank Woods found out that, this is the canonical ending to Black Ops 2, that it wasn't a death. He shot him in the leg and the knee, and he ended up surviving that gunshot wound. But until the year 2025, Frank Woods had no idea that Alex Mason was alive. So if we fast forward to the 90s, if Alex Mason is in this game, he has to be seen not by Frank Woods, but could be in the game, but not working alongside Frank Woods, because Frank Woods thinks he's dead. He thinks he's dead until the year 2025. Now, here's where things get really, really fun. So if this takes place in the 90s, say early 90s, let's just pick the year 1991 because they were like working with ones in Black Ops for some reason. This would be 5 years after Frank Woods thought he shot and killed his best friend, which that could play into the overall story, and I think that would be a very cool thing to do. But say this campaign goes somehow into the late 90s. Let's take the year 1997. Now, why do I say 1997? Because it turns out Alex Mason has a son by the name of David Mason. He was the main character in Black Ops 2. He was born in the year 1979, which would mean in the year 1997, he would be turning 18 and able to join the military. How cool would it be if they had a couple missions within the campaign that took place in the late 90s where you played as David Mason alongside Frank Woods, and he is mentoring you the entire time knowing he killed your father? Because keep in mind, David Mason didn't know that that is what happened until the year 2025. How cool would that story actually be? That would be an amazing thing to see. And on top of that, maybe, just maybe, we'll finally figure out how Frank Woods got captured by Raul Menendez. We still don't know that one to this day. So the final thing that I haven't touched on is the multiplayer side of things. We talked about zombies, early zombies, round-based zombies, but multiplayer is the one that we don't have a ton of information on. But the one thing that they do say in the article is that they're going to be bringing back classic Black Ops maps, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but based off of what we're seeing this year, I think they're going to want to focus a lot more on those newer maps, especially if this is a game that has been developed for 4 years. Now, the original rumor that we heard is that in the year 2025, there's going to be another Black Ops game that's going to work similar to Modern Warfare 3 that is essentially going to be all of the Black Ops remastered maps from Black Ops 2. So maybe in this game they throw in some ones from Black Ops 1, but I would be very shocked if they brought back just remastered maps. I don't see them doing that, but again, they bring back remastered maps every single Call of Duty game, so I wouldn't be surprised whatsoever, but to see it at launch of a 4-year development cycle, I'd be pretty surprised there. But as far as this goes, it kind of just reassures us that we are getting a Black Ops game, we're getting a Treyarch game, it's going to have round-based zombies, it's going to be the Black Ops universe, should be fun. That's essentially what we can take away from this. And like I said before, I really think a David Mason, Frank Woods crossover mission
we are dreaming in the dark. We are nothing more than dust. Search but you stay lost.